Welcome to the Inner Peace Masterclass. My name's Julie Cairnes and I'm a life mastery and conscious creation coach. Today we have the wonderful Kay Urlich with us, talking about her work with the energy field of the human body. So I'd like to welcome you, Kay, to the Inner Peace Masterclass.
Thank you so much, Julie. It's such a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. And Kay's in New Zealand and I'm in Australia, so we're in relatively similar time zones. And Kay is the author of 3 books that I know of and a number of numerous publications. What I'll do is I'll talk to Kay a little bit about her journey to the work that that you're in now. So Kay, can you tell all of us who are with you today a little about your personal journey and how that got you to your work with the energy field of the human body?
Right, thank you. Yes, Julie, I'll do that. And it's gone up to 5 books now, so it's really very interesting how they've been created. So for me, it started off when I was a single parent with 4 children, working, sort of burning the candle at both ends, and I ended up with chronic fatigue. So I spent a few years at going to hospitals, given all sorts of tests. They couldn't find what was wrong, so they said, go take these pills and join the chronic fatigue club, which just really didn't sound great to me. So I started into alternative healing, going to alternative healers. Then I became an alternative healer. And then one day, while I was working on a woman, I just got this really strong urge in my mind to massage her hands and feet. So I did that. I just followed the urge, and as I was doing that, I got the picture of a Bambi in my mind. So this little Bambi is quivering under a tree. I just kept massaging, and the Bambi grew bigger and bigger until it became this big deer sort of in my face. And I sort of threw the limb down. I said, oh my God, I told this woman what I was seeing, and which I didn't understand at all. I had no idea what was happening. She said, I understand that clearly. This is something that I've been looking for years, that I've been trying to heal in me. And she understood what it was, definitely. And so I just kept on doing it. And what I found was that in each hand and foot, that certain things were coming up. And I would get certain pictures. And what I realized that each hand and foot held a field. And so that the healing was taking place in a structure of energy fields. So at this point, perhaps I'd like to ask people to, if they've got a pen and paper, to just have a look at these aspects here and see what they mostly identify with and what they least identify with. So perhaps three of how they see themselves mostly and how they see themselves least, male or female. And so what I found was we have these aspects of us, and I started seeing that all these archetypes, with certain archetypes coming up in the hand, certain archetypes were coming up in the feet. And so what I found was that we have 2 aspects of our male and 2 aspects of our female. So we have an earth male and female, and we have a spiritual male and female. So what I would find, the different types of things I would find in the spiritual male energy field was, I might find a child abandoned on a mountainside. So this would be the picture of it. And as I massage, very gently massage, I would see the child come off the mountain, be wrapped in a blanket, and put in a safe, warm place. So completely, the energy would change as I was working, and so quite often, so what I found was that was the inner child was held in the right hand. Quite often, what happened was that where people work on the inner child, but it isn't permanent. It doesn't. They revert back to that trauma. But what I found was in the earth male energy field, which was the right foot, was our doing and our action in the world. So if it wasn't safe there, then the child couldn't land, it couldn't stay there. It might be stuck in concrete. It might be ignoring the child. So there are many things that come up in the archetype there. But as I worked, I found we were able to heal each field in its own power, and then they would merge and the consciousness would come together. So there would be, rather than a bipolar type of effect, we'd have this merging within. And then I would go to the left hand, which was our spiritual female. And this was the main nourisher of the inner child. So it needed, so I might add here that the child represented the lungs. Quite often that people have a lung problem, I would pick it up there. This left side represented the heart. So it's like the heart and lungs merging together and nourishing each other. But first they must be healed in their own field, was what I found. Then the left foot, I found the earth female energy field. So she is the nurturer. She is a physical nurturer, where the spiritual female energy is our spiritual nurturer. So with all these coming together, then rather than being not connected, we would be internally connected. And again, we say, rather than be like a bipolar type of effect in ourselves, where we fling from one field to the other, the consciousness of these fields merges. So that was just super interesting. And
can I ask just a little bit about the energy work, because I know that a lot of the work that you're doing is around balancing the male and female. I just mentioned there's actually been a worldwide campaign. I think it was spurred by Alyssa Milano, a well-known actress, the Me Too campaign, which has impacted a lot of women and some men as well around ending sexual assault. And I actually looked into it because I know that for her it was around the current Harvey Weinstein issue, the harassment that he's done to many women. But I looked into it. It was actually started 10 years ago. It wasn't a new campaign as we thought. It was started by a woman called Tarana Banks, I think, and it was actually more aimed at women of colour in the main who had experienced exploitation, sexual harassment and abuse. So it's not new, but it's just being brought back again. But yeah, I don't know, how were you impacted yourself by that campaign? I know I was.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I actually just came out yesterday and did the Me Too.
Right.
I related to gang rape that I experienced when I was 15. I actually didn't tell anybody about for 40 years. So it was a very big thing, and I found it wasn't something I could do actually for personal reasons, but I found what has happened with my life now is that my pain has led to my passion, which has led to my purpose. So it's very much again around the energy field.
It's like a dam bursting open, isn't it? Sometimes, like this repressed energy that's been held in, and even though it makes you feel very vulnerable to talk about the abuse that so many of us have been through, there's somehow a huge relief built into actually saying it to people around us who weren't aware of what our work is.
Absolutely. Well, most of my family weren't aware, so I'm sort of having a bit of a fallout since yesterday with my family. And but it's an unburdening for myself personally. It's been an unburdening to which I thought I had dealt with on many levels, but to come out publicly is a great unburdening, and I'm finding that it's better every day, which was only yesterday, but it matters, you know. So this matters as well as far as the earth female energy, which is that woman in the world, and it's that field that is silenced. It is the earth female energy that has been silenced for so long, for eons really, and this is what's rising right now. So women are rising to their full power. So their power really is in the spiritual female. So I might add that, before I go any further, that these fields are in everybody, men and women. they're exactly the same. What the energies I see are exactly the same. But what happens is we have our earth male and our earth female energy. The woman's challenge is to bring forth this power they have, which is what has been suppressed through religion. You know, this is the divine mother. She is the divine protector. And the woman and Indigenous people hold this power here. They hold this link. And in the male energy field is our mercy, our inspiration, which I'll show here. Which holds our innocence, our curiosity and inspiration. So, and this is men's challenge to connect with that vulnerability. So while this is in all of us, male and female have a particular space that they're holding right now on the planet, and it's for men to bring through their vulnerability and for women to bring through their real power, which is held in that spiritual female energy field. So what actually so you know, if you have, and this is why in New Zealand now we have a spate of I shouldn't say that, but we have a lot of teenage suicides. So this is what is happening. If we can't bring this through in ourselves, then we can't bring it through in the world. So it's happening actually at a national level, this inner child, if you like, our children, are not finding it safe. And this has got worse over years, and you know, there's a really terrible situation, but this is very much around making a safe place for children, which is really not at the moment. We, you know, have quite a challenge socially in New Zealand right now. So this earth male energy is it represents men in the world. It also represents our action in the world. So quite often when I'm working with somebody, if I'm working with a man and his energy, I will see his earth female that represents the woman in his life. So what comes up, and depending on what's coming up for them. So it's the same with the woman. So if I go to her right foot, which is the earth male energy field, that will represent the man in her life. For instance, when I worked on one woman, I was massaging her right foot, which represented the man in her life, and what I saw was this person skiing down this big ski slope, and then just disappearing from the picture. They'd come into her life and then they'd go straight out again. So symbolically, he said, "Oh my God, that's just like the men in my life. They come, but they never stay." So as the energy changes, we get that to stay there, to stabilize. So, and that is amazing how it affects that women's relationships. And people go on to, it's like in a few months, their relationships have changed because the energy has changed. So it's very, very quick, and it's very, very, like I don't ask people what they've come for when they come initially. I like to go in blind and just see what actually happens. So from that point of view, it's super interesting.
Interesting, you've written a book about, there's one called Testosterone Overload, and I believe it's around, you know, the issues around male energy in the world. And I mean, I personally believe that, you know, and not personally, I know it's a very profoundly believed by many people, that men are needing to find that the mother within themselves. You know, not in someone else, but actually to bring that nurturing mother into their own, you know, that being. And that, are you working with men on that level?
Yes, definitely. I'm working on that level. And that book I actually changed the name of. It was originally called, so again, if we come back to a global paradigm, we find rather than being in a circle, we're in a triangle where, if you look at neoliberalism, there is a lot at the top, or a limited amount at the top, who are receiving the money, and a lot of people at the bottom who are not receiving money. So this, if you look here, this field, we're in the field here, we're in the active, masculine, logical, competitive. So an energy field too, you could say all this other energy has gone into this earth male energy field. And so the actual title of that book, which I received great scathing reports on, was Men, Are They the Big Problem in the World? So that was my intention of doing that was to start a conversation, but actually it was so badly, the title, that I actually changed the title.
Oh, okay.
But then I've gone.
What was the new title?
Well, the new title was about the testosterone,
right.
But I actually put it back to the original title because that was the question that needed to happen. And this is where, in this society, we have, if you like, the corruption of young men. So I'm talking very much around how beautiful young boys are actually corrupted by the society they're in. And we see this time and time again. You know, I have 2 sons and 2 daughters, and I've seen it happen. And as they go through, you know, children, as a mother, you kind of see children lose their innocence a bit as they grow, they come into the world, and we have to align with the planet. You know, so my intention is to create a safer planet. And this is why I started the Peace Through Compassion movement, is that we want a safer place for our children.
Can you tell us a bit more about the Peace Through Compassion movement?
Well, there again, I discovered the energy fields, and I worked with them for a long time. And then I had many wonderful spiritual experiences. But then I had another one which actually, and I've written about, this is one of the books I've written about, is the Peace Through Compassion book, that I belong to love. I had this just amazing experience where I was taken by love to this place of divine love. And I was given the message that love is reality. And then it happened a second time where I was told I belong to love, and I go where love moves me. And so that's where the Peace Through Compassion movement came from. And so that really is where I'm at now, and what I'm doing is creating a place where people stand up for the strength of love. So what I found is that there are so many wonderful people out there doing absolutely wonderful work that we need to stand up for love. We need to stand up and share the goodness that is happening. We see so much negativity.
Yeah.
But in fact, there is a lot happening that is so good. And as Martin Luther King said, those who love peace must learn to organise as those who love war.
Yes.
And so that's about organising for peace.
Yes, it's sad that those who are into war and the military are a hell of a lot more organised at times than people who are into peace. There's
Absolutely.
a driving energy there. Very
yes. Yes, so this is what is so important when you look at the fields. If you see this on a global level, if you see this as being where we are in this triangle of hierarchy, it's hierarchical, it's competitive. If we move over to this nurturing feminine, this is the energy that women hold, that Indigenous people hold. It's like Donald Trump and Standing Rock here. You know, it's so important that Standing Rock holds its space, and we support Standing Rock. And it's like we support women who speak up. And so this is not anti-men at all. Yeah. It's actually, it's freeing men from having to compete in this model. So you know, so we're not cutting this field out. We're just expanding on it and bringing in the nurturing and the feminine. You know, environmentally, like Standing Rock are doing, they're protecting the water. We want to protect the water. So we have this beautiful environment, and that we want to stand up and protect it. And so what that means is we're bringing. So this is the field that takes us through to the higher spiritual. You cannot get here through the male energy. So what's been happening is this side has been cut off. This is the field that's been kind of cancelled or made invisible. This is women standing up, and this is Indigenous people standing up, black people, the horror that is the stop and frisk and things in the United States, which things like that, which we've got to put an end to those things. They're not okay. We need to be protecting young men. And again, so it's bringing here that this protector is protecting and nourishing the innocence and curiosity in our children. So what they do, they bring this through. So you actually have an evolution of consciousness. Once you start going around in the circle, this is part of human evolution. This is what we'll be doing to create a greater system, a more peaceful world.
Can I ask where you feel the planet's up to at the moment in terms of what do you think the state of the planet is at this very time?
Well, I think we're in a huge transition, and we have been, if you like, since the 60s. There's been this huge change, and we're in a great transition. I believe we're just ready to fly, actually, and we've had all the stuff come to the surface in America, as we can't avoid at the moment, but misogyny, racism, all of this has come to the surface, which is about bringing to awareness what's going on in this field. So, if you like, Donald Trump has been a devil's advocate to show us where we're actually lacking, bringing this up in our faces, that we can't avoid it. And women are standing up. It's like the Me Too, that it's important now to stand up. It's important now to protect the water, protect the land and the environment.
Yeah, and, we're really needing to stand in our strength at the moment.
Yes, and that's why I love what you're doing here. It's just absolutely wonderful that you're getting people to stand up and do this. This is exactly...
Yeah, I think it's a lot about changing the perception of peace, because it got a little entrenched in the hippie movement. And it's actually not a hippie movement. It's actually a very powerful concept that's quite radical, and people have been really harmed over centuries for promoting peace. So many people are so attached to the warrior and force and violence. It's incredibly sad. I mean, I quite honestly don't feel connected to those archetypes, but a lot of people are on this planet. And in fact, I was reading Marianne Williamson last night had written something. She's a bit concerned about what 2018 might look like. And I know America's really under the pump at the moment. So she was writing to be aware that 2018 will be harder than this year, and that we need to really kind of put our boots on, to really stand strong in what the work we're trying to do at the moment. It was a bit of a kind of a call to people, who are on the stage. Yeah.
Yes, I haven't seen that quote. I think she's amazing.
Yeah.
But I do believe that we are ready to shift. I believe we're ready for a great shift. And as you say, that it is holding the space that we're in right now as we go through this and bring forth. I believe in, I really believe in humanity, that we can do this and lift this.
Yeah.
And also I'd like to, so this field, this active masculine earth male field is about the mind. It's about the mind. And what these are about is the heart. And what I know from my own experience, that the heart is greater than the mind. So when we stay in our heart, we're going to rise above the mind. The mind is leading humanity now. Technology is fabulous, but we're greater than technology. Technology is taking us sideways. It's not raising our consciousness.
But the heart is intelligent. So you're saying use the intelligence of the heart, the mind of
absolutely. Absolutely. Instead of the mind leading the heart must lead the mind. So what is being given a lot of attention money-wise is technology. And so inspiration is coming through the masculine. So once we come through the heart here, the compassion, we bring that here, and our inspiration will come through the heart. This is where new technology is, and where humanity will rise, is that when we come through the heart and then bring this merciful inspiration through. So that cannot happen. Mercy, in my experience, working with these fields, cannot happen from here. It must come through empathy and divine love. Then you have true mercy. So we will protect other countries as much as we want to protect our own countries. So we're not in this alone. It's like all this diversity in the world is our strength. It's not our weakness. So,
I think one of our big challenges to befriend those that are hostile to us, for all of us,
absolutely.
Everyone. That is the big challenge. I mean, it's the really old saying to love your enemy or to embrace your enemy, or someone else said work with your enemy and make, was it Gandhi, someone, work with your enemy and make them your partner. It's that very different and a very challenging, it's good rhetoric, but when it comes to reality, it's very challenging to work with people who are directly hostile. So I think it's the big challenge of the planet is to somehow create that dialogue and work from the heart with each other.
Yes, and I think this is where people are connecting, despite what's going on politically, that it is a movement of people, no matter what's happening above us. These people are moving underneath this in a subconscious way, if you like, that we're, well, not a subconscious way, but an invisible movement that we're working to hold space and to connect with each other. And I believe, like in a lot of countries where there is war, the people used to get along together really well. I believe Israeli and Palestinians used to get on well. They were neighbours, and now, it's a big mess over there, and that's happened a lot everywhere. There's so much that we can all do in our own neighbourhood to make peace with our neighbour, with an immigrant or somebody else, that we are working ourselves, connecting with people, despite what's happening in government or.
Can I ask you just because yes, it comes back to our own neighbourhood and it comes back to ourself, which is the part of the call for this masterclass is coming back to our own inner peace. Can I ask you, for the practitioners who are watching, anyone who's watching, what do you think is a really good practice for anyone who's working in the healing field or just living to bring inner peace to yourself? What would you like? Do you have a personal practice yourself that you do on a daily basis?
It is basically to connect to my own light, and very big thing for me is to be in integrity. I was actually in a business a few years ago, and I left because the integrity changed. The integrity of the business changed,
Right.
and so this broke my heart to actually leave this business, but I did. And but then I had to ask myself, where was I out of integrity that I had this integrity come up to me? So very much was about taking responsibility for what had happened in my life, and so that got me on this very big path. And this is one of the reasons why I spoke up at the Me Too about rape. That was part of me being in integrity. How could I stay silent when this is happening, when people are suffering? So very much around being integrity with myself, around what happens to me, what's going on in my own fields. How do I, when I think of somebody, even I don't like, why? What is it about that I don't like, and what is that in me? And,
because when we speak up, it almost creates a kind of solidarity when we see how many of our sisters and brothers have been through it. It's a kind of a collective voice starts speaking, and it is so much about us finding our voice again.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And this is why we must support each other when people do speak up, and why we must support. There is no in the book we mentioned testosterone, men and testosterone. You know, about people speaking up during the Second World War. We see this time and time again, like with the Nazis, where people didn't speak up. Just a group of psychopaths basically got together and were able to get up. You know, and it's still happening. And we learn from history that we don't learn from history, and that it's time for us to create our own reality. And this very much is why I've started the Aotearoa Vision, is about creating our own reality. Doing another book about that, but I just realised the other day that I must get letters from people. So I want letters from people about what is the new reality, and the book is going to be about what is the new reality we are creating. So as we come from the spiritual female and bring through our greatest consciousness again and start rising into the spiritual fields, what is the new reality we want to create? This is us. We are here to create a new reality. We are the creators. And as we stand in our own power to raise our heart and to raise the heart consciousness, and this for me is like a little flame that lights another flame, that lights another flame, and that in our darkest times even, that to feel that one little flame inside of us and to nurture that little flame, to nurture the love there, and that is what is important now. That's all that matters right now, is holding space. So what is perceived as weakness, passivity, for instance, is valued in Indigenous cultures. It's seen as stillness, as thoughtfulness.
Yes.
So it's bringing that, it's lifting those
qualities.
Those qualities, yes, lifting the inclusiveness rather than closed, you know, interdependent rather than independent, and valuing each on its own, but bringing them together in a more cohesive way that values diversity. And,
Thank you so much, Kay. I want to thank you so much for speaking with us today. And just before we finish, I want to ask if you could speak about the free gift that you're going to be offering the viewers. If you can just go into that a little. Thanks.
Yes, I'm going to put the Structure of Energy Healing is an introduction. It's my first book, and it's about what the each field means and how we can bring them together, how we come to be dysfunctional, if you like. Family patterns, and it's often not our DNA that's doing this, it's our energy fields that unless we break cycles, we carry on the same energy. So it's about where this comes from and what they mean, and how it can work in your life. So I will have that on the peacethroughcompassion.net website.
Sorry. Oh, I remember that you mentioned to me that you had an upcoming event, if you wanted to mention that also to the viewers.
Oh, well, that I have a talk on the Aotearoa Vision at the end of this month, but that will actually be done, but it will be on YouTube. But also, I have a workshop at the end of November, and that'll come on my website early in 2018.
Yeah, and we'll have a link to your website on my website for this masterclass. So anyone who wants to follow you and join in can link into they'll have your contact details and can see what's coming up. So I just want to thank you so much. It's been wonderful speaking with you, and I wish you all the best in your work, because it's completely relevant for what's happening on the planet at the moment. It's very much that balancing of the male and female energies, and that's a huge call for everybody. It's, like rewriting our personal energies. Yes, thank you so much. And
thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing the whole series of what you're doing.
Yes, it's exciting. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you again.
Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.